Yeah, I'm assuming most people on this call are probably in Lagos, but we might have a few people connected from other parts of the world. It's morning for me. I'm logged in from North America, and where we're opening a new location. And thank you very much, Fego, for the introduction. It's truly an honor to be here. This is a second of a panel that we've been discussing. What are the options? Like Fego mentioned, Filii Magna we're a niche in Lagos. We've been in Lagos for the last 4 years. I've done this for the last 4 years as well. And we're quite knowledgeable and quite good at what we do. We're a professional company, services company. We handle travel documentations, and we have partnerships with immigration consultants, lawyers in different parts of the world, depending on where you're interested in. It's truly an honor to be here today. I think you can leave the background you had before. It's fine with me. It's truly an honor to be here today. And before I bring in Obi, who's actually sitting in another part of the world. So Obi is a solicitor, an immigration lawyer in England. And we've actually worked with him. Filii Magna has worked with him on several things as well. So I hope everyone can see me, yeah. On several things as well, several projects with some of our clients, and he's quite knowledgeable as well in this sector. I'm just going to do a bit of a background on why we're talking about the UK considerations, and in case you have any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to actually put them in the Q&A session. Obi's going to be taking questions directly. I will be taking questions directly as well. We have some of our clients that are logged in. We also have people that just have general inquiries logged in. So the purpose of this session today is basically to explore considerations. We all know how the world has been in the last few, and in particular how Nigeria has been. Some people, and what I always say is knowledge is power. Knowledge is power because, can you confirm that you can see me? I'm just trying to make sure. Knowledge is power because if you don't know what is accessible to you, you may not necessarily be able to make the right informed decision. And what we found with a lot of our clients is because they don't know what is accessible to them. So I'm just going to ask admin at the back end. Can you confirm that people can see me? I feel like no one can see me. I feel like I can only see Feg. So just confirm that. Okay. Okay, I'll continue here. Okay, so a lot of clients that come to us actually don't know what is accessible to them. They're not sure what decision to make. And so what we do is we basically sit down with you and we explore the options. It's never one size fits all. Because we're a pure travel documentation company, we've been in Lagos for 4 years. Typically over the years, you either know of us or you don't. So we work by referral simply because we want to be able to work with genuine clients, Now, for us over the years, what's happened is people have come to know the work that we've done, and so are either interested in a particular region or not. So for me, Canada has become very, very popular to people. I mean, I'm sitting here in North America, in Canada, where we're opening a new office, and the dynamics of the Canadian market. But some dynamics might be slightly different. So some people might say, look, I'm not interested in this region. I'm interested in UK, and that's what I want to stick to. And so what we're doing in this session is we're sitting down with a lawyer that has a lot of knowledge, has a lot of information. I also have that knowledge, talking about for you sitting here, you may just here, you may also spouse who has a British passport, and you're thinking, how am my British passport? Well, I don't want to send this number up me. I'm thinking of going to really explore because of about an hour long. We're going to try to keep to time. So if for any reason there are any of your questions today, you can feel free to reach out to us at Filii Magna. They will share the contact details at the end, and you can basically ask us, book a consultation, and we can then drill down and answer questions based on your own particular need. So before I bring up OB, so like I said, depending on your own questions, I'm going to raise some of the questions that some of our clients have raised. Feel free to put in the Q&A session. We're going to keep straight to time. And right now I'm 10 minutes in. I will be moderating this session as well. I'm going to bring OB in. So OB is a solicitor at OGN Solicitors, and he's sitting in England. So you have team in Nigeria sitting here. I'm sitting in North America, and OB is sitting in England. So you have quite a vast diverse team of people sitting here, and we're speaking from our knowledge. And one of the things that we take pride in at Filii Magna is to be able to tell you if something is not possible, we'll tell you it's not possible, walk away. We're very frank and upfront with the truth like that. We protect our own track record quite carefully. So anyways, without speaking much, I'm going to bring in Obi. So Obi, are you here? Can you just say hello if you're here? Thank you.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think so, yeah,
okay,
I can.
You need to get the video now. Hold on, I'm just
yes, you
trying
do.
to multitask. Can you see me now?
Absolutely, we can see you.
Hi,
Obi.
all right, okay, brilliant. Hi there, how are you doing?
Hi.
Good to see you.
So, good to see you, Obi.
So 1 second. Yeah, go on.
So I was just doing an introduction, and I feel like everybody on this platform, whether you're a client of ours or whether you just happen into this, you need to really be appreciative of the fact that Obi is here. I know Obi is quite busy, and I won't be surprised if he has another call in the middle of this. So
no, sorry, I'll put my telephone down.
Sorry?
I've muted my telephone, but somebody might come through there. But I'm fine.
It's fine.
I'm
so Obi is quite knowledgeable. Please milk this 1 hour and enjoy the conversations that we would have. I've worked with Obi. He will tell you if something's not possible, it's not possible, like I said in the introduction. So Obi, for the knowledge of different people that are connected on the platform today, I need you to, just give us a general overview with all the tight laws that are going on in England. Things are not the way they used to be 10, 12, 15 years ago, where you could come in and start with a particular status and cross over to another. Can you just give us a general overview of what's going on with, in terms of settlement and immigration in the UK? Are they welcoming people, or are they just like, bye-bye, see you later?
No, well, you might know this, or people might not know this, but from when the Conservative government took over in 2010, one of the things that they came into power on was to reduce net migration. David Cameron at the time was famous for saying that he would reduce migration to the tens of thousands. And at the time, the Home Secretary was Theresa May, who eventually became the Prime Minister. She famously gave a speech in Parliament where she said that she was going to make Britain a hostile environment. And so from about 2011, the hostile environment, the hostile immigration policy was born. And so from there, you found out in 2012, they revamped the immigration rules, made it extremely difficult. Many routes of entry and settlement were removed. They did this under the guise that they're trying to simplify the immigration rules, but really what they did was to close many routes of settlement in the UK. One in particular was if you were living in the UK for up to 14 years and you didn't have paperwork, you could apply for indefinite leave to remain after that. They completely scrapped that. And so now in the UK, for example, you've got to live in the UK without paperwork for 20 years. And even after the 20 years, it will take you another 10 years to get to settlement. So they effectively, and you've got to make 3 applications, which are very, very expensive. Now, not just that, they introduced the Immigration Act in 2014, which brought in offences, immigration offences, and in 2016 they brought in the Immigration Act 2016, which made offences out of immigration matters. So essentially what they did was, they did exactly what they said what is written on the tin. They said they'll make it a hostile immigration environment, and that's what they did. So are the UK welcoming of people? Absolutely not. What I do think, though, is following Brexit, and sorry, that can be shown from Brexit alone, that the main reason why Brexit succeeded in the UK was the promise that they would stop European migration. And that fell into a lot of right-wing people who thought, we need to stop the influx of Europeans into the UK. So what you need to bear in mind, the reason why I bring that up in Brexit is, if bearing in mind that the UK voted for Brexit, and one of the main reasons why they did that was to avoid the influx of European citizens. Imagine what they think of African migrants or Asian migrants. It's quite difficult now, but the government's all closed, particularly in human rights-based sort of applications. So if you've got, family in the UK, children in the UK, relationships, things like that, the Human Rights Act, human rights applications are still reasonably successful. But sorry, I've just gone on and on here without pausing for a break. But yeah,
that's fine.
In a nutshell, no, they're not welcoming everybody. But before I stop, with Brexit, the reason UK, they have to organize and they have to bring in trade deals with other countries. And my feeling is that they're going to have to relax some of these laws in order to progress, because the UK depends on migration. It really does. So irrespective of how they might try to sell it, that we don't need migrants, it's well known that they do need migrants. We do need migrants here. So following the transition, which will take place in January next year, we're waiting to see what other measures will be put in place to encourage migration.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is, obviously right now, so if you're just joining the session, and I can see a few people are just joining in, we're speaking to Obi. He's given us 1 hour of his time. We've worked with Obi at Filii. Obi is quite knowledgeable, and we're basically drilling down in terms of options. And just to summarize what you just said, literally, Obi, what you said is, yes, things are tight. The UK, what you're saying is they don't want immigrants here right now. Obi is speaking from his office in England. They're saying they don't want immigrants right now, but then things could change even as we enter January 2021. So really, it's really putting our ears to the ground to see what could change.
That's right. Because what I do know is that when the UK have been trying to negotiate trade deals with other countries, part of those trade deals is also, what are you going to do for our citizens? How are you going to allow a flow of our citizens to your country? So you can't just come to us and negotiate business and say, well, we'll do business with you, but we don't want your citizens in our country. So they're going to have to negotiate these deals. And apart from that, as I said, there are human rights considerations that will always be applicable in relation to people who have family in the UK, which would include like partners or children or relatives. There are applications you can still make to come to the UK based on those sorts of circumstances.
Now, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you, my job here is really to ask the tough questions. Yeah. I remember historically when I was in England, there are people that, like you said, they came in, spent 10, 15 years as students, did one course and another course and another course. So on the platform today, we have people that maybe are saying, look, I'm going in for a course, I'm going for a PhD, I'm going to go and get some work experience. Are you telling me no possibility of me getting a residency after spending all of that money? Or there are people that are saying, I'm an entrepreneur. There are entrepreneurship categories that can be considered.
There's three in particular. There's one called the startup visa, where you come in to start up a business. You have to have at least £50,000 in cash. There's an innovator visa, and there's a global talent visa. Now, the startup visa is where you say you're going to bring up a viable, socially innovative sort of business, which is going to be scalable. It has to be approved by an endorsed body, so you'll submit to them a business plan to confirm exactly what it is you're providing. If that's the case, they'll give you a visa for 2 years, and after that you can progress to the innovator visa. So there are applications you can make. The sticky point is that you've got to have a viable business plan. You have to show it's an innovative type of business, that it's scalable, that you have £50,000 at least to invest in it. And I mean, the sticky point here is that it has to be approved by an endorsed, and there's a list of them. I can't go through all of them on this live, but there's a list of endorsing bodies you submit your application to. If they feel that your business idea is viable, they'll endorse it, and then from there you'll make an application to come in. Even when you come in, they'll monitor you within the next first 12 months, 24 months to make sure that things are progressing. And then after that, let's say, for example, you're on a startup visa, you then progress to the innovation. Even if you get to startup visa, it will not automatically. And the reason why they're doing that, I guess, is to see that if you start your business and it's going to fail, that you're not going to proceed. But if it's starting to progress and it's scaling, then you can progress to the innovator visa.
But you haven't said anything about, but you haven't said anything about students. So what about someone that so we're looking at highly skilled people, right? So a highly skilled person, we're not looking at an undergrad level. And highly skilled person, yes, they have a business idea. They've done four years of therapy. So are there considerations for those options? You know, and speaking about this student I mean, I have clients here that they're children in England, and they don't realize that they're even entitled. Most of them just go in and out with visiting visas without realize that they're entitled to certain categories of visas. They have children studying there, right? But then what if you're a highly skilled person and you're studying? Are you saying then absolutely no options? You know,
there used to be a highly skilled migrant visa, and then became a highly skilled visa. Those categories have been scrapped. And we're part of the hostile immigration environment. Those categories have been scrapped. If you're highly skilled, you'll be expected to where you're showing that you've got some sort of in a technical or scientific field. It's very, very specific now. Before, the tier one highly skilled migrant visas weren't like that. You just had to have, I think you had to be, have at least like a master's degree, and you had to earn a specific amount in the UK. But the UK government said that this was open to abuse, and people were abusing this route, and therefore they closed it. They totally closed that. So now they expect you to just study and then leave, unfortunately. Boris Johnson did announce that there'll be a 2-year postgraduate work study, so you can stay after your studies to work. And what is hoped is that within that period of time, you can then effectively find a tier 2, which is a work visa type of employment. But there isn't anything specific now for highly skilled. If you've been in the UK and you've been studying up to 10 years, then you can apply under the non-residence rules. But no, that highly skilled, for what it used to be, that really has closed. We're yet to see if they're going to reopen it again. Hopefully they will. But one of the lasting remnants of this conservative government, this present conservative government, has been this hostile immigration environment, which effectively closed that route, which is what was used by lots of Nigerians, lots of Asians, lots of Africans were using that route. They effectively closed that.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like I said to you, I do know people that from studying, in fact, historically, before, you could go from undergrad degree to postgrad degree to another degree to many, many more degrees. And then before you know it, you have a residency. But what you're saying now is, if you've been studying for 10 years, you could get a residency, but the path to a passport, it's really far-fetched.
No. If you've been studying in the UK 10 years, you can make an application for indefinite leave to remain for the long residence rules. Once you get that, once you've got that indefinite leave to remain for 1 year, you can apply for British passport. So that hasn't closed. If you're able to maintain a presence in the UK, you've been studying over that period of time. We do have clients who have and studied either through secondary school to university to postgraduate, and they've covered that 10-year gap, that 10-year period, they can apply for leave to remain, for indefinite leave to remain, not just leave to remain, indefinite leave to remain, which means there's no longer any bars to their stay in the UK. Once you've held that that status of indefinite leave to remain for up to 12 months, you can apply for citizenship. There are other little requirements, for example, that you can't have left the UK for a certain period of time within that period, but those are called residence requirements. But in a nutshell, if you've been residing in the UK and studying in the UK for up to 10 years, that path under the long residence rule, under the 10-year rule, is still open. They didn't alter that one. They didn't change that.
Okay, so literally what I'm also hearing is there are options to settle. So there are options, because what some people want to do is, look, I'm not even interested in the passport. I just even want to have a better life, right? Some people are saying, I'm spending all these thousands of pounds, and we know what exchange rate is right now. Whether you're exchanging from dollar to pounds or whether you're exchanging from naira to pounds, exchange rate is an issue. Some people are saying, look, I'm spending all this money on my child. If I spend all this money on my child, is there an option? Is there an option for me?
Well, yes, if it depends what for the parent of the child?
Yes.
For the child.
For the parent of the child. For both. So example, so I'll give you two scenarios. So somebody says, I'm sending my child to school in England from the age of 8. After being there for 10 years, is there an option for this child? Or I'm sending my child to school from the age of 8. I don't want to keep going in and out with a visiting visa. Are there not necessarily, are there options for me beyond the visiting visa?
Well, you can apply to remain in the UK as a parent of a child, but that child has to be age 12 or under. After that, no. And it doesn't lead to settlement, unfortunately. So the child will get settlement, but the parent won't. Now, that is the reality of it. If the parent wants settlement, the parent will really need to apply other sorts of visas that I mentioned, like an innovative visa or a startup visa or an investment visa. Now, the UK are notorious for this. If you've millions of pounds, the equivalent, they'll find you can easily settle. They don't mind that one at all. If if you've got £1 million or so, you can invest.
So does the UK, because there's some countries that are selling their nationalities, right? And they would literally tell you, bring X amount of money, and are there investment routes in the UK? So the question is, yes, we know the UK is tough right now. They're not as friendly as they were 10 years ago, but are there routes around it?
Yes, there are. I mean, if you've got a minimum of 2 million, it's not a million, £2 million.
That's a lot of money.
It is. And, they essentially will welcome you with open arms. And with that £2 million, you don't really need to do anything with it. You can just invest it in government bonds. And that leads you to settlement within 5 years. If you've got, I think it's equivalent to 5 million, I just need to confirm that. You don't even need to
That's a lot of money.
You don't exactly.
Between me and you, if I had £5 million, I'm sorry, I don't need a passport. Some of our, if I was being on this panel, and if you have any questions, because like I said, we're keeping to time on this panel. You need to send your questions as we're going. If you don't send, you won't get to them. So please just bear them. But Obi, if I had £5 million, I'm sorry, I'm not bringing it to England. I'm just being real.
But the figures are just so you can, the people listening can money. If you've got 2 million to invest, you can 5 years, all right? If you've got 5 million to invest, you can settle after 3 years. And if you have 10 million pounds to invest, you can.
Obi, you're not being real. I'm sorry. You're not speaking my mind. I'm being honest with you. You're not.
You can settle after 3. I understand that. But there you go. And that's always been the case in most countries.
I know. I'm saying you're not speaking my mind, but at least those ones are open, right?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, but I like something that you've said. You said if you've sent your child to school and they're less than the age of 12, there is that route of parent of a child less than 12. Obviously, once they clock 12, you're out of the system. Now, I have a question for you. With those kind of visas, can I work? So I've sent my child to school. I have parent of a child. Can I work, or I'm just there to take no other business?
You're there to take care of the child, because even to get to, you're supposed to show that you're earning money. It's not a visa in which you're supposed to be earning money for. You have your child in an expensive fee-paying school already, and you need to establish that you've got the funds. First of all, remember, you've got to show that you've got education, support yourself already. So they're not expecting you to, you can continue the working, you'll be expected to work, but it's not one where you would now go and be seeking, it sort of defeats the purpose. It's not one seeking to seek employment here, there, or wherever. You'll be expected to be able to support yourself and your child financially. If not, it defeats, their reasoning would be, well, can you not afford to support your child? Why are you seeking to work? For accommodation, it defeats the purpose. So
that's interesting.
Those visas only for 12 months. You've got 12 months. The key is to be.
You spoke back to your investment.
The investment, well, the whole point of an investment is you will get it back, yes. But the thing is, an investment is something that you look for long term. Now, what people do is if you just invest in government bonds for a fixed period of time, yes, you can get it back afterwards. The main thing is you're putting money in the economy. I'm not sure exactly how the bonds work, but I do know that it has to be there for a fixed period of time. It's usually long term, like in any long-term investment. So the whole point of an investment is that you're investing in something that you'll get a return from. You're not like giving money away to the government, but all you're doing is you're putting money within the economy that they can use for whatever they're using their ventures for, and then at the end of that period of time, you'll get your money back. Absolutely. That's what an investment is. If you invest in bonds, but these are long-term projects, so I think it's something like 5 years, 10 years, things like that. But it's not money that's being thrown away. It's money you will get back. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I mean, so that answers that person's question. If you're considering that as an option, it is possible you will get your funds back, but it's not a short-term investment. You know. No. So now let's go back to, there are speculations, and I like the fact that you said January. Let's go back to this whole COVID times. So we have people that are logged in here and they're saying, look, I'm stuck in England due to COVID times. I'm here. Is this going to affect my chances of renewing my visa later? So some people don't even care about the settlement. Just renewing. So I've got a question here that is talking about COVID times. As men have stayed back longer. If I was crossing over to another category, will it affect my options?
It won't, as long as you're within your visa time at the moment. If your visa's expired, the UK government did extend visas for everybody who was stuck in the UK due to COVID, and I think the last date was at the end of August. So you're supposed to have submitted any applications you needed to do before that period of time. However, if you overstayed your visa now, so you haven't done anything or you haven't renewed it, you will be looked at as overstaying. Although, because COVID has been a unique event, that, you know, unprecedented event, it is very much possible that you can explain the reasons why you didn't extend your visa when you could have, and if you provide a good explanation why, if you satisfy the other requirements in relation to the visa category that you intend to go into, there's a possibility that the Home Office will consider it. What I have to let you know is this. Under the immigration rules, the Home Office have a discretion to do essentially anything that they want. And that's the truth. They can apply the discretion if there are compelling, compassionate, or exceptional reasons. So if you can put whatever your circumstances are, either within exceptional, compassionate, or compelling circumstances, or all of them, then the Home Office can decide to ignore a particular requirement of the rules and grant you that visa. So they always have that discretion. That discretion is enshrined within the immigration rules. So if you're going to make an application like that, and for example, you've overstayed your visa, or because of COVID, you couldn't do what you were supposed to do within the period of time, if you make your application, I cannot say that it will be refused point blank. No, I would say that you have to make a good, make a good application explaining what your circumstances are, specifically requesting for the Home Office to exercise that discretion in your favor. So say, for example, you lost contact with the people in the UK, somebody died or something happened in Nigeria or wherever your home country is from, you couldn't do what you were supposed to do, and you've only come around. As long as you can provide evidence of that and explain it properly, if you satisfy the other requirements, it's quite possible that the Home Office will grant that application. In the past, we've made many applications.
I've got a few questions, and I've got a few questions on Q&A. So if you click on Q&A, and I'm trying to address, there's one question, so I'm taking each question one at a time. There's one question here. You don't need to switch off your camera to do Q&A. You can just click on Q&A. Obi, are you here?
No, I'm not switching it off. Yeah, I'm there.
So it says, is your 2-year graduate visa, is the 2-year graduate extension visa applicable to any graduate student after schooling? The person then goes on to say, even without a job. So I feel like they need you to expand on something that you had said before.
The graduate extension, can that specify that a little bit?
So it's your 2-year graduate extension visa. So what they mean is maybe after you've done a postgraduate degree, you get your 2-year visa to work. So must you have a job? Must you have a job to qualify for that visa?
No, you have to finish what you're doing, and then you then look for your post-study work. You make the application on the basis that you're looking for work to do.
So basically, you don't have to have a job. So as long as you've finished your degree.
Yeah, sorry? That's right. Yes. As long as you finished your degree, then you make the application in order to stay to do your post-study work. You don't have to have a job by the time you make the application. No. But you'll be expected to find one. And hopefully if you find one, then that will lead you to employment.
Okay, so we're taking questions now, and just to say, because we're keeping the session to time, we've got about 25 minutes left in the session. I hope I've answered that person's question. We've got another question here. This person has said, I'm assuming they mean residency, because when people say green card, they think green card, you're referring to America. So say, what steps should I take if go through a permanent residency interview? I'm going to say the answer to that question is it depends on circumstances in which you apply for that permanent residency. And that's going to be my answer to that question. I don't know how you apply for that permanent residency, but your circumstances will determine the answer, what steps you should take. So I'm going to skip to the next question. Obi, are you okay with my answer? So the next question is there a part for spouses of citizens where family don't currently reside in the UK? So that's another question. Is there a part for spouses of citizens? So, okay, I get this question. So what they're saying is, my husband maybe is a citizen.
Yes.
Or wife. He doesn't reside in England. But I want to get my passport or my residency. Is there an option for me in that regard?
And the person is outside the UK.
So the British citizen is outside the UK. But both husbands is like saying Mr. A and Mr. B are married. Mr. A is British, but he lives outside the UK. Mrs. B is considering her citizenship or residency. What are the options for her?
Okay, for her to get residency in the UK, even though they're outside at the moment. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting question. Now, the most important thing that you need to bear in mind in any of these applications, especially regarding the UK, is money. There's a minimum income requirement that the person you're going to join or you're going to come with is earning a minimum of £18,600. So you would need to come if you're residing with your husband, for example, outside the UK, and you wanted to come to the UK, you'd need to come with your husband or wife to the UK. You'd need to demonstrate, the British citizen will need to demonstrate that they have earned the equivalent of £18,600 wherever. So whatever, if you do the calculation, the foreign exchange in Nigeria, so say for example they reside in Nigeria, they'll need to show that they've earned that minimum amount in Naira, and then they'll then come with their wife to the UK or with their husband to the UK. But they can't just come to the UK without the spouse. What a lot of people do is that the spouse will first come to the UK. This is a very common scenario. The spouse will first come to the UK, find employment, which gives them an income of over 18,600. Once they've held that employment for more than 6 months, they only need to demonstrate it for 6 months. They can then apply for their spouse to join them as their spouse. So the main thing is the income. If the man or the woman, whoever is a British citizen, is a person of means, they can apply for entry. Well, she will apply for entry clearance. At the same time, he's going to come in, and he'll provide his documents or her documents to show that he has earned the equivalent of that 18,600. I don't know if that makes sense. And
that makes sense.
upon that, they also have to show that there's adequate accommodation in the UK. For a man and wife, it will just be one room, really, in a property, like a one-bedroom flat or a studio flat. It depends if there are children. If there are children, the income requirement increases. But I'll just keep it simple for this particular question. That, as I said, the British citizen needs to show that they've earned that minimum amount. We've had cases.
And can I just ask you, does this depend on, for instance, what if the spouse, does this depend on how the spouse got their national, how they got their citizenship, or it doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really, well, technically it does. But let me put it this way. We've had situations, sometimes the Home Office will refuse an application, not necessarily because of anything that they've put, they'll just find a flimsy excuse to refuse the application so it can be dealt with on appeal. And we've seen that this happens in cases where, for example, the person has come to the UK before, brought somebody in, divorced them, come back again, brought somebody else in, divorced them. So they start suspecting that this isn't a genuine type of immigration application. But normally, apart from those type of unique circumstances, no, it doesn't really matter. Once you're British, you're British. It doesn't really matter how you got it, unless the circumstances are suspect. Because one of the requirements of to bring in a spouse is that the parties have met and the relationship is genuine. So, respecting the minimum requirements and getting, showing that you've got adequate accommodation in the UK, you've got to demonstrate that this relationship is in fact genuine, and it's subsisting. And to do that, you probably need to show, to provide information of how you met, provide some form of evidence of that relationship, correspondence between you over the period of time, pictures, photographs, if possible, photographs on the marriage or during the relationship, just to convince that indeed a genuine marriage and not just marriage of convenience to bring somebody in. So
Absolutely.
that's something that some people take for granted. What I do find, I'm going to go on a little bit here. What I do find is a lot of times when people are presenting a genuine application, because it's genuine and they have nothing to hide, they don't put in enough effort to prove what they need to prove, because they're like, I have nothing to hide. I mean, they can ask questions. Well, I can go in, I have nothing. It's a genuine relationship. Nonsense. So they don't really put in the right effort that they need to do to establish that it's a genuine relationship. Even though everybody knows it's genuine, they haven't provided all the evidence that they need to provide, because they just assume that, they take it for granted that there's no way that the Home Office can doubt that this is a genuine relationship, if I'm making sense. So they don't really just provide all the documents. They just fill out the form and send it. And they don't take enough time to put the documents in place. Let me put it this way. If your Home Office, your name is for example, Obi Emeka, the Home Office will not believe in passport that has Obi Emeka. If you tell them, they're not going to believe you. If you say I was born on of January, the Home Office will not believe you unless your passport is there. If you say you're married, they'll not believe you unless you bring marriage certificate. If you say you have passport, they'll not believe you unless you show the evidence. So everything that you're going to assert, you need to back it up. You know, you can't just say, hey, I'll never tell a lie. Hey, look, I'm a Christian, or I go to church, or I never tell a lie. Go and ask them. They're not going to, if you don't provide it, they'll believe you don't have it. So
Absolutely.
That's one thing you have to do. Always, always, always. Anything you're going to tell them, anything you say, please back it up with evidence. Please, please, please.
You know, one of the things I always enjoy about conversations with you, Obi, is with all, I mean, your years you've lived in England, your Nigerian side always comes out, you know, and you're always upfront with, you know, and this is what I always say to people, and people always have concerns when they go down the road of all these applications. They want to talk to the trusted hands. They want to talk to the right people. And that's absolutely what I like, working with you and talk to you as well. So like I said in this session, we've got barely about 15 minutes left. If you have any questions, you can ask them. And I'm going to take like 2 other questions and then we're going to call it close. But you can ask your questions. If we haven't addressed anything that is particular to you, you can reach out to us. And obviously, Obi, we would be able to bring in and know if your situation is something that Obi can handle. He will very much be able to handle it. You know, he's quite knowledgeable. So Obi, I've got a question here. And this is the question we have every time. Nigerians want to go to England to look for work. And this question says, okay, I'm trying to find the question now. It says, I'm trying to find, hold on one second. I think the question was talking about, can I get a job? How easy is it to get a job in England, like a work permit without, I mean, you don't live there. Do you have all those work permit routes in England? Do they have that?
Yes, they do. Yeah. Yes, they do. But it's quite difficult. The first thing that I must say is this. Before you can get a tier 2 visa, they're called tier 2 visas, work visas. Before you can get one, normally it has to be in what's called a shortage occupation, an occupation which is listed as one of the occupations that they have shortages in the UK, right? At the moment, nurses, doctors are hotcakes because of so, you know.
Thank you for saying that. That's for somebody to hear, obviously. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big because of COVID. But normally, what would happen is, even if you're in one of those shortage occupations, you have to find an employer who's sponsored by the Home Office, who has a sponsorship certificate, who's been approved by the Home Office to employ people. That person has to show that they've offered this job to not just English people, to European people. They have to show that they've advertised it and that they've been unable to fulfill this role. And that's why they're seeking to recruit outside. So you've got to go through all those hurdles. And so the shortage occupations are things like, as I said, within the medical field, and a lot of these sort of farming things, you know, picking berries and stuff like that. There's sort of occupations like that they find it hard to fill. However, one of the occupations that people still are able to get tier 2 visas, for example, which we've done in the past, have been chef positions. So if you're, for example, you run a restaurant, a Nigerian restaurant, and you particularly, you have this particular type of dish which is very, very difficult to cook or to find, then obviously that position won't really be open to Europeans or to British citizens, because how many people can do proper ofe nsala or egusi with ishi inside? I don't know, I'm just making this up. But you can make an application on that kind of tip. But generally, work permits are difficult. You have to have that sponsor who's going to make that application on your behalf. That sponsor has to show that it's a shortage occupation. They've tried to recruit, and then you get the job through there. So it's really difficult. It's one which is it's quite difficult. It's possible, but it's quite difficult. Essentially, you have to have an employer that believes in you first of all, really needs your services. I think you can get that as well in IT, certain sorts of skill sets in IT. My knowledge of IT isn't that great. My 10-year-old is the one now that's fixing my computer to show you how good I am with computers. But there are certain things with IT and tech and innovation and things like that there are definitely opportunities for. What I'd advise anybody is to go onto the Home Office website. If you went to .gov.uk, look at what the shortage occupations are, and see if you can fit yourself in there.
And just to say, one of the things I like about the UK is the information is readily out there. It's out there. You know, I mean, if you want to speak to us, you can speak to us. Obi, I thank you so much for that. Now I'm going to throw another question in, and I'm scrolling down to there are two questions quite similar. This one is always very popular. If you had children in the UK and they don't have citizenships, neither do you and your spouse. So basically, the person had their kids in the UK. Obviously, we know if you were born before 1980, was it 1983, you could have your passport. Yeah. So they're saying they were born in the 2000s. Can they ever get citizenships later?
Are they in the UK? Are the children still in the UK?
The person's question is, are the children still in the UK? Can we answer the question whether they are or they're not? Because the person didn't specify.
So I'll go first. If they're not, if they were just born in the UK and have gone back to Nigeria, no. They'll just look at them as Nigerian citizens. Before the 1st of January 1983, if they were born in the UK, they automatically get British citizenship. That ended after the 1st of January 1983. So if they were born and then they left, then no. But that also determines if, sorry, the question is if the parents don't have citizenship either, right?
Parents don't have citizenship, so they just came, they gave birth to them, and
unfortunately not. And that's a misconception I see all the time. People query that, well, they were born in Britain and they have British birth certificates, so somehow they should be entitled to something.
Some people even say that if they come back to England before they're 13, they could get their citizenship. I mean, are all these things myth, or is it?
No, that's a myth. That's a complete myth.
Will the law ever change in their favor? Could the law ever change in their favor?
I don't think so, because the Nationality Act changed in, 37 years ago? No. And that was really a move against Commonwealth citizens who were being born here, which you can call them like anchor babies like they're doing in the States, that Trump was talking about trying to end as well there now. That was also happening in Ireland till recently. But in Britain, they stopped it in 1983. So no. However, if the child is in the UK, and remains in the UK for up to 10 years, they're entitled to British citizenship straight away. You can make an application for British citizenship. There are other requirements you have to fulfill, but the child can apply for citizenship. If the
parent is not a citizen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the child is in the UK for 10 years.
This has got nothing now to do with the parents. This is the child's right under the British, under the immigration laws, right? The child can apply for British citizenship. Once the child gets that citizenship, if the parents are in the UK and that child is still under 18, they are now parents of the British child. On that basis, they can then make a human rights application to remain as parents of the British child. Because you can't think about this. You can't anymore because the child is British. And how can you deport how can you remove or deport the parent to the child? So what happens to the familial care? How can you split a child and the parent? So you can't get rid of the parent either.
Yeah.
So you can't. You can't. You can't. So the parent can make an application on that basis. Also, one more thing before I say that, if the child has been born here and has been here, or even if the child wasn't born here but has been here for a period of 7 years and they are under the age of 18, they can qualify not for indefinite leave to remain, not for citizenship, but for a category of leave to remain under the family roots rules, immigration rules. They can apply, and the parents can apply as well. So if the child and the parents are still in the UK, the situation is much different. If the child has been here for at least 7 years. There's a multitude of things that can be done. But if the child was simply born here and went back to Nigeria or to Ghana or to wherever the country is, no, it really doesn't really count for anything, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks for that question. So I'm going to read, and I feel like this is going to be the last question we can take. If you have any other questions, unfortunately, this is a 1-hour session, and I'm not going to take much of Obi's time. So this question, Obi, is actually in the Q&A session. It says, and I feel like you've answered this question. My partner and I are entrepreneurs in Nigeria and are looking at possibility of moving to the UK. We have 2 children, 1 parent, and 2 kids are British. So I'm guessing wife and 2 kids are British. but the
Yeah.
other parent is Nigerian. What is the best way to apply without long period of separation? I feel like you've answered that question, really.
I have kind of. I can answer this one specifically. One parent is British, so one parent and the two children are British. All right, they can
Yeah.
immediately come to the UK. Now it depends. If the one parent can demonstrate that they have that minimum income, they've earned that minimum income of £18,600, and they have accommodation, the other parent can make the application to join the spouse with the children as they're coming into the UK straight away. So the spouse, they can make that entry clearance application straight away. If the one parent doesn't have that money yet, my advice would be that the parent and children should come to the UK first, set up home, he or she finds employment that earns that minimum amount of 18,600. It doesn't have to be more because both of the children are British. So if they can find that employment that they can get, that they earn a minimum of 18,600, once they've got that employment for 6 months, then the other parent can join, can apply to join.
But at least they won't be separated for a long time, is the point. They won't be separated for a long time.
It'll be at least 6 months. You know, after 6 months, they make the application. And these applications are, on average, dealt with within about 3-4 weeks.
But I mean, even if it's 6 months, if the other parent has a visiting visa, she could be there and not work. Just be there with her family, like a visit, right?
It's possible, but you have to be careful with those applications. The reason being, you have to explain why that parent is not applying for the spousal visa straight away. Because a visitor, the most important part of the most important requirement, one of the most important requirements of a visitor's visa is that you intend to go back at the end of your visit. Mm-hmm. Now, how do you establish that you're going to go back at the end of your visit
I get it.
when your wife and children are here? You really have to provide reasons why you're applying for a visitor's visa, because what they think you're going to do is once you get here, then you'll just stay. And then try and go through the back route of, you know, human rights visas, this, that, and the other. So it's a difficult one.
Mm-hmm. I think that you've answered a lot of questions, and just to say to everyone that's listening, this session was just to really dive into a lot of inquiries that we get around UK considerations. I really want to say thank you to Obi. Obi is speaking from his office in England. He's quite knowledgeable in terms of the UK law, what the considerations are and not. There's so many, I can go over this session back and forth, but I really just want to say thank you to Obi for the time. He's very busy. I can tell you for that. I'm always very careful to message Obi because I'm like, Obi is a Nigerian British man, you know, but he's quite knowledgeable. If you have any questions now or later, where you feel like we haven't covered your category, please feel free to send us a message. We can do a consultation. Obviously, at this point, it would be a paid consultation with either myself or Obi. So thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, Obi. And just to say to everyone, to Obi, thank you. Do you have any last words while we round up?
Thank you. I've enjoyed the session. It's always good talking to you. I hope everybody's found this useful, and you've already told people what they need to do. But thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Obi. So as Obi signs out, I'm just going to say that this has been a series of several sessions, you know, and Obi, someone's just leaving a message for you.
Thank you.
We had the first session 2 weeks ago where we looked at the popular citizenship by investment. So Filii is a travel documentation company. We're in a niche in Nigeria, and we have access to lawyers in different regions, lawyers and partners as well. So if you feel like you're interested in a particular region, you want to speak to us, feel free to send us an email. We're here to help you. Someone is saying they missed most of it. This session is going to be recorded, and it's actually going to be on our channel later on. So go on to listen to it later. We will have other sessions as the year rounds up. There's a popular question on the Canadian route. We get that Canadian route asked thousands. Coincidentally, I'm sitting in Canada. We're opening a new office else, basically, and that's really it. So thank you so much for joining this. Online, if you want to speak to Obi, if you want to have a consultation because we didn't handle your situation, you can also go on our website, which is www.filiimagna.com. I'm signing out as managing partner. It's been an insightful session. The video will be uploaded online on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and rewatch it, whether it's with your spouse or not. I'm handing over now to Fego, who is the host for this session. Thank you very much, everyone. Fego, over to you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thank you to our wonderful speakers for an enlightening session. And I know we all can attest to the fact that we have learned a lot today. Thank you to our wonderful moderator, Olamidotun. A poll will be coming up now, so please kindly answer the questions. Okay, the first question is, have you ever considered having a dual citizenship in a foreign country or working abroad? The second question, have you ever been refused entry into a particular country? A third question is, would you consider a professional service company for your visa application? Okay, our results are out. Thank you. Thank you for participating in today's panel. And also just to add that we also process domestic employee visas to the UK, US, and other countries. The video of this panel will be uploaded to our social media platforms. You can check us on our LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Filii Magna. Stay tuned. There will be another educative panel coming up soon. Thank you.